Tonight, an ordinary man makes the biggest mistake of his life. He steals someone else's destiny. He thinks it's harmless, he thinks it's just curiosity. But he has no idea that he has only 24 hours to return it before his real life begins to disappear piece by piece. Stay with me until the end, because this story proves how one small decision can destroy or save an entire identity. In the center of an old city, beside a quiet river and among forgotten stone streets, stood a public library that most people passed by without a second thought. What they didn't know was that this place held a secret that awakened only at midnight. When the clock struck 12, the lower floor of the library came alive, the walls breathing softly as though they remembered every life that had touched them, the shelves sliding into new shapes and dozens of glowing blue books emerging from the darkness. These were not ordinary books. On every cover, written in silver letters, was a single sentence: Destiny, for 24 hours only. The only guardian of this secret was an old librarian named Morris, a man whose quiet presence blended into the silence of the building. He had spent decades watching people step into this place with the same desperate longing, the longing to escape themselves, even if just for one night. Morris always said destiny borrowed from another person was like wearing someone else's shoes. Beautiful perhaps, but painfully the wrong size. And every night he warned the same thing: bring it back on time, or the life you came with will begin to fade. One winter night, a man named Daniel entered the library. He was not remarkable in any way. Not successful, not a failure, not happy, not miserable. Simply one of those people who drift through life feeling everyone else's story is somehow brighter than their own. That quiet feeling of inadequacy had become a shadow following him everywhere. So when he heard the whisper that the library offered a chance to live another person's destiny, just for a day, he couldn't resist. Daniel stepped into the glowing section, his heartbeat louder than his footsteps, and looked at Morris with a mixture of hope and fear. "I just want to know what it feels like," he said. "Just one night as somebody else." Morris sighed, the kind of sigh that comes from watching too many people make the same mistake. "You may take a destiny," he said, "but remember, 24 hours, not a minute more. If you're late, your own life will begin to erase itself." Daniel nodded with the confidence of someone who had no idea what he was doing and reached for a thick blue book that shimmered brighter than the rest. On the cover it read, "The Destiny of Adrian Carr, Genius, Millionaire, Adored, Unstoppable." Daniel couldn't help laughing softly. "This is exactly the life I never had," he whispered, and he opened the book. A burst of white light swallowed him whole. When he opened his eyes, he found himself lying on a velvet bed inside a mansion so vast he thought he must still be dreaming. His phone, worth more than his monthly salary, buzzed with messages from journalists, investors, admirers. People expected him to change the world by noon. People called him brilliant, people begged for his attention. For the first few hours, Daniel was intoxicated by the power, the luxury, the applause. He moved through rooms filled with marvels, tasted foods he couldn't pronounce, sat in meetings where men twice his age listened to him with admiration. He laughed, he glowed, he believed briefly that this was the life meant for him. But by evening, the shadows began to show. Messages of hatred arrived beside the messages of praise. Threats disguised as compliments, smiles that hid knives. A loneliness so deep that even the marble floors seemed to echo it back at him. It was a life of grand victories, yes, but also of constant fear, overwhelming pressure, and the terrifying realization that no one truly loved the man behind the achievements. At midnight, the edges of Daniel's vision began to shimmer. The blue light of the Destiny book appeared again, faint at first but growing brighter. He reached for it, desperate to go home, but when he opened the final page he saw nothing, just a blank white space. The connection was fading. The clock on the wall glowed mercilessly. 23:55. Only 5 minutes left. Panic rushed through him. "Please," he whispered to the empty room. "I don't want this life. I want my own life back, whatever it was." His voice trembled with a truth he had never spoken before. The life he came from, small and simple, was still his life. It belonged to him in a way no borrowed destiny ever could. The mansion began to dissolve into smoke. The light swallowed him once more. When Daniel opened his eyes, he was lying on the wooden floor of the library. Morris stood above him, his expression a mixture of relief and disappointment. "You almost didn't make it," the old man murmured. Daniel nodded weakly. "I didn't know," he whispered. I didn't know my life meant anything until I tried to live someone else. Morris helped him up and brushed dust from his coat. Most people learn too late, he said. Destiny isn't about glamour, it's about fit, and your life fits only you. Daniel returned the blue book. Its cover was scorched at the edges, a sign of a destiny pushed too far. He stepped outside into the cold night. His small apartment still waited for him, his ordinary job, his imperfect days. Yet for the first time in many years, Daniel felt something warm spread through him. Not joy, not pride, but ownership. His life might never make headlines, but it was his, not borrowed, not stolen. His. And sometimes the most extraordinary discovery a person can make is simply this, that the life they've been trying to escape is the only one built perfectly for them.